Hello, welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is a bonus episode titled The Podcasting Musician Class, an interview with Catherine Baker. Flute 360 is launching the Podcasting Musician. Create your music podcast on a low budget to amplify your voice and offerings. In these classes, we will build your podcast from the ground up. Podcasting has been growing steadily for the last 15 years, and it continues to soar even during a pandemic. Remote classes begin on December 15th, 2020. Register today at heidikbegay.com/thepodcastingmusician. See you soon. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Heidi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I figured I would call you because I wasn't sure if what I sent to you worked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't even look at the email.
Oh, no worries. I haven't used Skype in years.
Yeah.
So it's changed so much since I last was on it.
It feels like a 90s thing, huh?
It kind of does, even though, it's actually pretty stable, and it looks like they have some cool features. Like they have translation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think I just liked something about our conversation, too. There's a like button.
I see a little
so many
heart.
different things.
A little heart react. Well, you're not the first guest because a lot of guests had that same reaction. They're like, Skype? I forget about Skype, or I forgot about Skype. That's a thing still? I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, the very first, the OG.
Oh, shoot. I love it. Well, actually, the funny thing is I like Skype better for the audio quality, not just for talking purposes, but also for music lessons.
Really?
Yep.
Is the audio better for music lessons too? Do they have any other features, or is it just clearer?
Yeah, I just think it's better than Zoom.
Very good to know. I might experiment with that a little bit.
Yeah. And I was experimenting with it only because Eric and I were doing like a summer series about your virtual world. And we were talking about remote lessons and microphones just to help people with this, transition.
Yeah.
And we were discovering that Skype just seemed to be more stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
good to know.
Yeah.
I'll keep the app then.
Nice. So how are you?
I'm good. I'm recuperating from Thanksgiving. We ate yesterday because Zach worked on Thanksgiving and was on call that evening. So he didn't get called in, but we didn't want to, make a giant meal and have him have to go into the hospital. So
yeah.
Wow.
What does he do there?
He is a heart ultrasound technician.
Whoa.
So he is a heart sonographer, I think there's a more technical name I could give you, but I forget.
No, that sounds technical enough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So he's scanning hearts, and he's been starting to scan some babies these days, which has been cool for him. It's a new experience. They kind of train him on babies while he's there. So it's been very interesting for him.
Oh, cool. So in y'all's conversations, like over dinner or, a walk in the park, are you learning about the anatomy of the body through his job?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He is always, he's got this like model of the heart on our entertainment center, and he'll talk about this part of the heart and that part of the heart. And he'll say like, this person had this. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know these words.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So does that affect how you approach like your practice or your lessons with your students? Or not yet?
I guess it could.
Yeah.
I will like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Just telling them that, I'm with a non-musician. I think a lot of students are very interested by that.
Yeah. No, it brings a lot of balance.
Yeah.
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 I remember my flute professor in Louisiana, Dr. Danette McDermott, between her master's or her doctorate, I forget where, but it was a transitional period for her, and she went to New York. And so during that time, she was an assistant for an orthodontist. And she got to learn a lot about the mouth, the oral cavity, teeth, the tongue. And in lessons, she'd be like, "Did you know?" And she would rattle off these random facts about teeth and the mouth and the tongue. And it was just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's so directly related.
Yes, that is more directly related. Yeah, so cool. Well, I didn't think we would talk about heart and teeth, but I love it.
You never know.
You never know. So you're out in California.
Yes.
Yeah. And what drew you to that location?
So I moved to California because I wanted to go to school at USC. I was accepted to study with Jim Walker for a performer certificate. And so I moved out to LA and I went to school at USC for 2 years and I graduated and have been here, working ever since then.
Oh, neat. Very cool. So is there any other, I should have taken a step back. Sorry. You, before that, went to UT and studied with Marian Gadigian. Could you just describe briefly about your musical career before we talk about the class?
Yeah. So if I go way back, I think about, when I first began, I don't have a very musical family. No one in my family that I know of plays an instrument or sings or anything like that. But I was really young, and in second grade, I went into the living room and I said to my mom, "I want to play the flute." And so she signed me up for lessons. And so I continued private lessons, and then I was not very serious at all. It was more just a little fun thing that I liked to do. And, when I started doing band in school, I think it was fifth grade that they start that in Texas.
Yeah.
I was starting to do, band class, and then marching band started. And, I was obsessed with marching band, totally obsessed. I loved it. Everything about it was my life. All my friends were in band. I spent all my weekends going to football games, marching band competitions. That's all I did. And I loved it. But I think the part that I really loved the most was just that all, 300 of us were on a field just working towards this one common goal. So I think that's kind of what pushed me to do music, because I wasn't really sure that I was going to do that until I was a senior. It was pretty late. No one was pushing me to do it. I just knew that I liked doing it. And so then I went to University of Houston and got my Bachelor of Music there. And I was in 2 years of marching band there. And I learned, I don't have a lot of time for marching band. Even though I love it, I need to be in the practice room more. I have rehearsals for orchestra and band, and there's just not enough time. So I left marching band, and I found that whole side of, working towards this one thing with a big group of people was being found in band and orchestra, in the pit. And I loved that. And that was really hard for me to find anywhere else in my life. So that is kind of where and why I went that direction. After University of Houston, I moved to Austin, and I went to get my master's at University of Texas, Austin. And after that, I ended up at USC.
What a great journey.
Yeah.
I love how you just noticed, even at a young age, that you were getting this really fulfilling engagement with your peers in whatever music ensemble or music class. Yeah, I respect that.
It's something I've always felt. And it's just hard to find anywhere else. So
yeah, I totally agree. So then fast forward even more, Flute 360 is a thing, and you and I kind of meet through the podcast / the project that you worked with Timothy Hagen. And so we have never met officially. We did an e-meet on Monday.
Yeah.
But I just want to give the listeners a little background just to be like, wait, where are we? So today we're doing a bonus episode featuring Catherine and her many talents, and how Eric and I are onboarding Catherine for our class, The Podcasting Musician. And I saw Catherine's beautiful album art cover that she did for our mutual friend, Timothy Hagen, and his podcast. And so I reached out to her and said, you know what? Hey, I would love to onboard you and work with you so you can help the class participants with their album art. And lo and behold, Catherine said, oh my goodness, I discovered your podcast a couple of days ago, and it just, we met and it was magic. So now we're here in November and we're getting ready for the December 15th class. And I just cannot wait.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah. And we were able to have a little bit of a preview working together with this November class. It wasn't a huge hit because I think people are, it's the end of the semester, and people are wrapping up their collegiate studies or whatever. But I was very fortunate to have Justin and Molly on board and take this class. And Eric and I have been working with her, and they have also worked with Catherine. And their podcast is titled The Heart of the Artist or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, The Heart of the Artist.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. I should double check. I'll pull up the file right now.
Yeah. So I just loved how you really listened to their direction, and you said that they had come to you with a lot of creative ideas. What was that process like working with Molly and Justin?
It was really awesome because they knew exactly what they wanted, which for me is really comforting, especially doing a project with somebody who's across the country, not in the same place as me. And, with COVID, I can't really meet with anybody these days. So they were really clear on their email. Usually whenever I work with somebody on a design project, I usually do it through email, and it's super helpful whenever the client comes in with a very clear idea of what they want out of their project, whether or not it's, cover art or a logo or a poster design or something like that. I also find that using email is easiest because we don't have to play phone tag. If we have tons of different schedules as musicians and different time changes and things like that. It just is so hard to get a hold of people on the phone sometimes. If I'm teaching lessons and the other person is teaching lessons and, we want to connect, we have to do it through email sometimes. It's just the fastest way. So I ask that people send me, their ideas for the cover art, any inspiration that they have, just do a quick Google search and look up logos that you like. Tell me the colors exactly that you like. Tell me the fonts that you really, really love. And what was really great about this last logo that I did with them was that they had an actual sketch of what they wanted out of their logo. They gave me an organization and kind of a picture of what they wanted for this cover art. And that is extremely helpful for me especially when someone has an idea of what they want. Sometimes they give me, the freedom of creating something out of just little things. But if someone has a really specific idea, that's really, really helpful.
When you described all of that, I kind of imagined somebody sitting down in the salon for a haircut and being, just saying, oh, do whatever you like. And being like very vague, and the hairdresser's face going, okay, can you give me some idea of what you want, what you don't want? So I can see how being specific can help the creative process.
100%. Because the thing I want to prevent the most is, me having one idea for the logo, which isn't my logo, right? I'm designing it for that person, and it being completely the wrong direction of the client. And then we having to kind of redesign something else. So if someone has an idea, that clarity is really helpful. That's a really good comparison with the hairstylist. I really like that.
Oh, shoot. So what even got you into graphic design?
So it actually, it's funny. I was thinking about it this morning. It actually goes back all the way to marching band in high school, because the first thing that I designed was the marching band t-shirt, that had, the show theme and everything for that year. And I had done that for our group, and one of the moms of one of the band members had seen the shirt, and she has an invitation and party supply store in that area, and she hired me as an assistant to help her with typography and invitation printing and things like that. And at that time I really didn't know much at all, except that I liked creating art digitally. And I really liked looking at different fonts. So I said yes, but I was kind of nervous. I don't really know what it means to design things for people, with money involved. So I took on the job, and I was working in that card shop, and she trained me really well. And I remember messing up this huge print order at one time, just totally hating it and being so stressed and not knowing how I was going to fix this. And, she came to me and was really, really nice. And she really approached me with a lot of kindness that day. And I think I could have easily just been like, I'm never doing this again. But she said, it happens to everybody. This is what you need to do. And we moved on from there. So I worked in that card shop for, I think, almost 2.5 years, part-time, while I was in high school and a little bit into early college. I loved it. I really, really liked it. And I had to leave that position, because I was just spending more time at school. I couldn't go back to my parents' house and work at this job anymore. And so I left, but she really encouraged me to try to continue doing it for colleagues at school, people that needed recital posters or, programs that needed to be designed, things like that. So I was just kind of poking around with people in my studio and people that I met at school about, concerts they were having and doing small projects like that. And when I went to UT, Marianne was wonderful by really connecting the dots with how design and music and practice were so highly related. So that was a big conversation for us in lessons a lot of the time. And so I continued doing it just because we were talking about it and sharing ideas and things like that. And then at USC, Jim, he knew that I did design a little bit. I really liked it. And he went upstairs and knocked on a door upstairs to the marketing department and asked if they needed any help, because he knew this flutist that liked design. And, then I was their marketing assistant for like a year, I think.
Wow.
So I learned a lot there about actually the printing project of large scale projects like this, big posters that are going to be up in the hallways and flyers that are going to go online or in emails. And it was a lot of fun. So I've just continued since then.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really love hearing how, Marianne and Jim, of course, are taking you under their wing as their flute students, and they're mentoring you towards this music degree. But to even go a step further and to see and notice that you have this interest in another creative art and still take you under their wing and say, let me help nurture that just speaks so highly of who they are as teachers.
Yeah, I have nothing but amazing things to say about them. They're amazing. I love them so much.
Yeah, I can just even see the twinkle in your eye, and we're, just on an audio call here.
Yeah.
But that, that really affects you. And now you being a teacher, you can carry that on into your studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So cool. So as we are getting pumped and stoked about this December 15th class, if there is an applicant who, partakes in this class and they think, oh my goodness, creating a podcast album art with Catherine, that sounds crazy. I've never done something like that before. Can you describe what the process looks like? And can you talk about what they can expect?
Yeah. So the process is easy. So really all you need to know is what your project is all about, what your podcast is all about, what inspires you, and what kind of ideas maybe you want to come through that cover art. And sometimes it's as simple as a color and a really clear font. Sometimes you might have a symbol in mind and you can share that with me and I can put that into a simple graphic. I think for me personally, simplicity is always the best way to go about these things. If you have a lot of ideas, share them with me and we can kind of pinpoint where we want to go with that, because we don't want to have too many ideas that will busy up things.
Yeah.
And so, like I was saying in the earlier part, sending me images of things that you really like, just design wise, like for a style, even if it's a logo for trash bags or something really, really unrelated, just knowing what kind of style you like is helpful. It doesn't have to be an exact replica of what you're thinking. That's really helpful.
I love it. And one of my life's mantras, I don't know if I can call it a mantra, but what the heck, why not, is KISS, keep it simple, smarty. And so when you said, like really simplicity, is going to be the wow factor in this, is it because we're in the 21st century and things are more modern, like that streamlined modern look? Or is it just for like marketing purposes where we need to keep the attention of the potential listener?
I think it's probably a combination of both.
Okay.
I think right now, the style that's quote unquote in vogue these days is, very modern, very clean. But I think that has a purpose and, you want everything to be looked at cleanly and you want the person looking at it to get the idea that you're trying to put across to them.
I love it.
Yeah. And personally, I love the modern edge of design. I think it's wonderful. That's my favorite style.
Yeah, I agree. The clean lines and even like in furniture or buildings, like architecture.
Totally.
Cool. So I will say that if somebody, is listening to this right now and you're thinking about the class and you're like, oh my goodness, Catherine just talked about like the name of my podcast. How am I even going to do that? Don't worry. I work with you for a good hour and a half before I send you off to Catherine. And you and I sit down and we talk about a podcast theme. We talk about your avatar. And so I want you to know that you do get situated. I do lay out a foundation for you before you go and talk to Catherine in that next step.
That's so great that you do that. That can be a really hard thing to think about, but to have someone else to bounce off ideas with is super helpful.
Yeah, I do know that like in my life, whenever I worked on a creative project or a thesis or, whatever for school or my career, having those soundboards in your life, whether it's a mentor, a friend, another expert, can be really enlightening and really inspiring.
100%. I agree with you.
Cool. So when we were chatting on Monday, the thing that you and I were noticing or being aware of is this idea that you, Eric, and I are all musicians. And that's really neat for me. And I know like your eyes, super lit up on our call on Monday because here we are, like we're all trained as musicians, whether a guitarist or two flutists, but we're putting together this class that, yes, utilizes our music skills to some degree, but we're also bringing other talents to the table in this class offering. So I'm curious, could you share what this means to you too, Catherine, or do you want to piggyback off of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, for me, this design work is super important because performance work has not always been steady for me. I think we can all relate to that at some point in our life. And so I had to get used to that idea that I wasn't going to have a concert this week or that month even. And to have that design aspect in my life created a balance, like you were saying before. And sometimes I would get a design project to work on with another client. I didn't always have that, but there was some other aspect of this artistic side of myself that I could go explore. So, if I don't have that work or that performance or that project musically, I can kind of feel a little stuck, a little bit down about practicing maybe. And sometimes I don't want to touch my flute at all when that happens. And that's okay. But I felt, drawn to going into the design a little bit. And that gave me that refresh, I think, that I needed to go back to my instrument and have maybe different ideas or just, a refresh. And, with COVID happening, I think this is even more valid these days because there's, a handful of performing opportunities that all of us have. It's so low.
Yeah.
And my design work has actually been less if I, talked about 2 years ago before COVID. But then COVID happened and, Tim Hagen contacted me, and then another colleague needed a logo for his French horn book that he's publishing. And now you've contacted me, and we have all these different projects that we're working on that maybe we didn't have time for when we were all playing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an opportunity for all of us to kind of just explore and try new things. And, this might affect our music in a really positive way.
Definitely. Yeah. And I love that because, look at there's always a silver lining, right? As awful. And I know you were affected greatly by COVID, but, as awful as this pandemic is, there's always a silver lining. And it's like, okay, what new opportunities can we create? What new relationships can we form? Because seriously, I think you're awesome. And I've seen you on Instagram as my Instagram flute friend, but I've never reached out, and I didn't have a reason to reach out. And maybe that's bad on me, but it just, we had our lives and you go about and you're busy. But like you said, when things are kind of come to a halt, you're like, okay, what can I do in this season? What can I do right now? Life threw me a lemon. What lemonade am I going to make? Or I love the analogy now, what lemon pound cake am I going to make?
I love that. Yummy.
Let's take a step further. Instead of a yummy drink, let's go to a yummy dessert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm going to form this class. I see a need for this. And then you realize I need this, I need that, to build this class. And I'm not a graphic designer. And you did such a wonderful job with Timothy Hagen's, album art. And I went to your website and you had a subdomain just for graphic design. And I was like, oh my goodness, I would love to work with a fellow flute colleague that I've never met, who's also, really good in this niche too. And all it is a text message or an email, and now this new relationship has formed. And it's like, that is so freaking cool.
It is. It's amazing what technology can do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'm just so excited that you're going to be working with Eric and I and all of the class attendees. And I just thank you so much for, freeing up time in your schedule to make this a possibility.
Of course. This has been really exciting for me. It's been great.
Good. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to dive into this December class and see what creative ideas come from the new attendees and just collaborating and working together on something really great.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. So in the last segment of the show, I do a fun segment called Picks. Do you have a fun pick for the listener today?
I do. I have two. Can I share two?
Oh, please. Okay? You share as many as you want.
So the first one is a Netflix series that I am obsessed with. I'm sure not everyone, but a lot of people have heard of it, The Queen's Gambit. It is brilliant, I think. And it's been so long that I think we've gotten really great storytelling from a television show like this. And I think a lot of the themes are so relatable to today. So if you haven't watched it yet, I think you should, because it's awesome. I finished it probably in, a week.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to finish shows, but it did not take me a long time for this one.
I just finished watching it, and I would give it like 15 out of 10.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome. And it's so great to see a woman in a lead role in a field that isn't usually filled with women. So that's just so great to see. And then, so my second pick is I kind of got related thinking about, musicians doing other things and opening up the possibilities. My friend, Kat Grant, and her husband, Jeffrey Grant, they have recently started doing this great project called the Total Shift. And Kat is a yoga instructor who is also a flutist. And Jeff, he is a percussionist who does sound baths in these classes that they put together. And they have a December class bundle that they're doing online this next month in December, with going over like the basics of yoga. So really learning the foundations and, the history and how it's applicable to today. And then Jeff always does a sound bath at the end of every class. So I'm signed up for that, and I'm looking forward to that 100% because I did one of their other classes in October, and it was awesome. So awesome. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I can totally get behind that because my DMA studies was with Dr. Lisa Garner Santa. And many people know that she's a yogi and she has her own yoga studio. I think it's called Highway 108 in Lubbock. And a lot of her, and a lot of her, the yoga philosophies and the body awareness and the poses came into our lessons. And it was really neat to have that perspective.
Yeah.
Cool. Great picks.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, my pick seems very simple compared to that. And my pick is pumpkin pie because we just finished Thanksgiving. And as long as I can, as long as I can remember being a little girl, like pumpkin pie was like the thing that I wanted to eat, for Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah. And I will say that pumpkin pie is amazing for like the day after Thanksgiving, like as breakfast. That's my all-time
so funny
favorite.
You said that. My parents actually texted me, what was it, yesterday, the day after their Thanksgiving, and they said they both had pie a la mode for breakfast.
Oh my goodness. That with also with like birthdays and birthday cake. You got to have birthday cake the morning after as breakfast. It's like a must.
Of course.
Oh, shoot. Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for spending time with me and, showcasing your talents and all the great things that you're going to bring to this class. And I cannot wait for the December class and to get to collaborate with you and the participants.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, you have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. For more information, please visit HeidiKBegay.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review in the iTunes store. Let's talk about flute.